hear me? Good. Okay, you know.
I cannot hear you. Is it normal?
Ah, you're muted. I can hear Olivier. Olivier, can you hear me?
Yep.
No, sorry, I was
Yes.
muted.
Yeah.
The headphone was muted. Okay, great. Hey, good morning.
Hello.
Hello.
Not sure if it's morning here. Technically, for us, it's in the afternoon.
Afternoon, yeah, right. It's 12 in here as well. Yeah, I don't know. I've been used to have meetings with the West Coast, and I'm always saying good morning to everyone. So thanks a lot for taking the time for this little conversation. I hope the chat can actually make way more questions than the ones that I got it here. But thanks. So I'll try to rearrange this differently. Let me see if I can
Not sure
chat.
for Olivier, but me, I think that's the first time since Adeline that I'm actually on this type of Twitch interview thingy.
Yeah.
Right.
Never had an opportunity before, so.
And it's the
Hello
first time
world.
as well for me to do the interview, so or at least the conversation. So let's maybe present you guys. Let me just remove this. So on the top right corner, debug is Michael Pontier, right? And then on the bottom, it's Olivier Lermette.
Hello.
Thanks
Nice
a lot
to
for.
see you guys looking at the chat at the same time.
Yeah, it's disturbing because the chat is like delayed by I don't know how many seconds.
Is it? Okay.
But it's, yeah, at least 1 or 2, I guess. But it's normal. It's all good.
Okay, great. So just to make it, I guess, easy, can you guys give just a little bit of an introduction about yourselves, what you're doing, just whatever you can share.
Yeah, Michael, do you want to start? You're the oldest, so
Yeah.
cool.
So me, I'm still in the video game after 30 years. So it's the 30 years of LBA in October, but me, I joined Adeline January 2nd, 1995. So basically next year, it's my 30 years in video game, 20 years in Funcom, and yeah, still no break. Been doing game after game after game. I started as game/tools developer, and at some point I migrated to pure tools. So not involved in the development of the games themselves, but the technology, tooling, backend, all the things that people think is extremely boring, but which I find much more interesting. Because if you don't have that, you don't have the game in the end. So yeah, that's about it.
Thank you.
So me, I started. I mean, we have a common story before Adeline, so we can talk a little bit about this because it's actually funny. Even how myself and Michael ended up in Adeline is actually one of those crazy stories that you couldn't believe ultimately. But I started in Adeline in March, I think, March 1994. I worked at the end, indeed, on the end of LBA PC, but I was not directly involved. I mean, the game was mainly done. There was lots of content still being added, lots of bug and functionality being added. So I was helping wherever I can. I remember like doing the recording for Germany, for example. But after that, yeah, I'm still in the video game. Even if I went into big corporate, small companies. I went in the US and Canada. Went back to Europe. Now I'm based in Brussels. Went to work a little bit for education. I'm really trying to summarize it. And yeah, still I love actually development. I'm still programming. Even if I went a little bit on dark side. I mean a lot on the dark side, meaning I crossed the line and went to management.
We all do.
And so I'm still doing both. I love management, people, and company and product management, and I love programming. So I'm going back and forth. Um, and yes, in a nutshell, that's it. Based in Brussels. Yeah.
Just to jump on what you said about the incredible story. So, before starting to work at Adeline, we were both doing what's called demos on at RBST, which is like making some kind of interactive video clip, not interactive, but real time. But we were trying to make games as well, which we miserably failed because we spent way too much time making pretty fast, smooth, high performance, full screen over scan raster piece of stuff. Oh, we need the gameplay as well. So yeah, we failed for that. But all our friends knew we wanted to make games. And at the time, I was subscribed to a magazine called Tilt Microsystem. And they bankrupt. So my subscription was converted to another magazine called Joystick. And in the very first issue of Joystick I got, there were an announcement, Adeline Software, Lyon, looking for programmers. None of our friends, many of them were subscribed, even thought about it, and I just saw it, and yeah, and I was doing my bachelor degree. I wanted to finish it, so I sent that to Olivier. Olivier sent his resume, the demos we made. I ended up going to Lyon, I think, see Fred Renal, and then he was hired. And fast forward like 1 year later, yeah, Adeline need to get more people. Mike, do you really want to finish your master? Nah. And that's the same. Join 1 year later.
So
And
you
that
end
was
up
thanks
not
to the
finishing.
demos on magazine.
You end up not finishing studies and just went to Adeline.
Yeah, and I'm glad I did that. Really, university is not for me. And I pretty much, absolutely 0% of what I learned at university was relevant, if only like 3 years later. It was just maybe some principle, giving name to things we were already doing, but it was not a great experience.
Right, interesting.
So that's how we indeed ended up in Adeline. And for me, so for the story directly related to LBA, because I guess that's why what people may be wondering. So when I arrived there, they actually wanted to prepare a console version of LBA, and they saw me because when I arrived at Adeline, it was crazy when I think about it. I arrived, my resume was shit. I mean, it I had nothing. I had no diploma. I made demo. I couldn't say that I was also cracking games for fun or putting trainer on games. And so I arrived at Adeline with my Atari ST in my bag. Almost lost. I mean, almost missed the train. And what I showed was my program in assembly language in 68K. Um, on the Atari Falcon, and that's everything I had. Um, and uh, uh, and basically Fred and Laurent looked at it and I guess they loved my enthusiasm. They also Fred was also himself self-educated, so I guess he saw in me I guess pieces of what he experienced himself. I mean the passion and the willingness, and they hired me on the spot. And yeah, it was crazy. I went back from to my town with the contract. It was like
That easy.
the week before I was loading and trucks, loading and unloading trucks because no diploma, so you're fucked. And well, I dropped school, the school as well, so that's my fault. But because I was spending most of my time on the computers, and that was it. That was the fun of it, the life of it. My life was just well, a bit of party, and the rest was programming, um, and cracking, and yeah, just being on the Atari basically all day long. If I was not gaming, I was programming. Um, and so a few weeks later, I don't remember how long it took, but I started in Adeline, and they were struggling to finish the LBA1 PC. There was lots of challenges, but the game was there already. It was fun, and and they asked me to do a few things. I was helping to debug or a few things, learning also how to program in C, because again, I mean, the game was in C, in assembly language PC, and I only knew one assembly language. I mean, a few, but always the Motorola family, and so I had to learn new things, and so I was just into it, learning their tool, learning the library, looking at what they've done, how they've done it. So that's why when there was a bug, I was looking at it. But they were doing the game. I cannot say that I participate to the creation of LBA1 will be an overstatement. I was a bystander, looking at all those guys that had, well, I mean, a crazy experience compared to me, and I was trying to learn, and that was super cool. And because they wanted to have a console version, the first thing that they asked me quickly is, okay, one of the very famous console at that time was the Sega, the Mega Drive. So they asked me to look at how to make a LBA on the Mega Drive. Of course, you're going to tell me, wait, but the Mega Drive doesn't have any 3D. And indeed, the idea was to prepare, to prepare the launch of the, oh shit, I forgot the name of it. It was an extension that was
32X?
33. No, I did that. Wrong. Fuck. Anyway, that was the extension
Mega
that you would
CD,
put.
no?
No. That was an extension that you would put on top of the Mega Drive.
Yeah, the
That
32X.
It's the 33X.
32. Because 32 bit.
Yeah, 32X. Yeah, I guess. And yeah, 33 making no sense.
33 bits, just to be sure.
No, it's not Sega CD. It's actually it was really something that you would plug on top of the Mega Drive, and this will still run the Mega Drive, but there will be an added layer of drawing that will be in 3D. And so we didn't have the hardware yet, even if I was starting to receive the documentation. We received from Delphine a bunch of development kits for Mega Drive, which I actually jumped on. It was fun. And I worked on making the tool to transfer the assets and the content of LBA to the Mega Drive. And well, I never got I'm spoiling immediately, but I never got the game fully running, but because we never got the 32X hardware, and I will explain why. But I got the old backgrounds running, the isometric background running on the Mega Drive, where you could scroll and navigate in it in pseudo 3D, because there was an overlay. I mean, we were just redrawing the 2D isometric block when you were behind it, so I was doing some tests with that, and I made all the tool change, transferred the 256 byte ultimately color PC assets to something on Mega Drive that would only be able to render 4-bit art, so 16 colors. So we were actually I don't think I captured anything at the time, but we were putting multiple sprites on top of one another to actually combine and find the best look and feel. It was actually quite looking good for the time, and for it was not as colorful as the PC version, but it was quite cool, because you had a limited number of palettes as well, color palettes for the 16-bit block. So
You also had the Twin Sun 3D rendering using tile splitting. You made a tile render. I mean, this is actually the source code of your 68K with line, draw triangle, DMA transfer, and I have like 16 pages of it.
Okay, so I guess I forgot that.
There is diagonal, trace DX to DY, so you have all the shit made.
That's Atari stuff. That's not Mega Drive.
No, SA PRG Sega. It's on the top. Not sure if it's very readable.
Okay, I have no souvenir of this. Shit.
Okay. May 30, 1994. Try 00.68K. SA PRG Sega. Adeline Software. Olivier Lermite.
Okay, cool.
So I don't think that ran, but that existed.
So I mean, ultimately, the Mega Drive experience was a blast for me. It was the first console experience that I had really on Atari. We were already on personal computer, I should say, And that was cool discovering that I mean the Mega Drive was one of the last of its kind where everything was a ROM, so read-only memory, and you have a tiny bit of RAM where you have to store like all the variable that could evolve, and that was I had a blast playing with that.
You
But
forgot the Nintendo 64.
yes, yeah, but I mean I didn't
Yeah, yeah,
bother
yeah.
directly on the Nintendo 64 after that. Um, and uh, uh, and so we're waiting for the 32X to happen. I mean, Delphine was wondering if we should what we should do, and the next generation was actually already coming. So Sega with the 32X was kind of a miss shot ultimately in terms of the product, because you had the PlayStation basically starting to point his nose, as well as the Jaguar as well. Uh, um, and we actually got there was a lot of discussion to do one or the other. It's funny because again Miguel has a better memory than me because we had a chat a while back about this and he told me detail that I totally forgot.
Yeah, we had the three dev kits basically, and we had to pick up. So we had the Jaguar dev kit, the Saturn dev kit, and the PlayStation dev kit. And I don't think we haven't started up the Jaguar dev kit. Partly there were multiple versions of that one, but the one we got basically looked like a Jaguar, which had been open with one of these flat cables with RGB colors connected to a card inside the PC. And the documentation was basically this type of thing, buying pages. The Saturn dev kit was a lot better, but it looked very much like a work in progress thing. It was not very nice. There is a lot of things in Japanese in the documentation. And then you had the PlayStation dev kit coming in plastic glossy binders with PlayStation orange logo, all the pages, glossy cardboard, very high quality thingy. The dev kit itself was this giant ISA cards. Everything looks like pro. So Sony on the game console was kind of unknown quantity. But oh yeah, and of course there are the demo CD with the dinosaur. So yeah, when you saw that, yeah, we're going to try that one. So I think we spent like a grand total of like 2 days thinking about it or something like that, and we did not even try the two other dev kits.
And
Yeah,
was there
I
any
had
other
both.
previous game in
Mm.
either Delphine or that was actually starting to be made on the PS?
So that would be a question for people at Delphine. I think they were at the same level as us. I think everybody when the dev kit started to arrive, Adeline and Delphine got them at the same time. I'm even wondering if Adeline didn't get one before because I remember some very early dev kit which were like white computer basically. It was not like the ISA card that we later know and that we were installing in our PC. It was really a different piece. I remember playing with it a little bit, and then it went away, and we got the fancy ISA card that we were plugging in the PC, and that was it. So, but they had not made any game. I mean, I don't think that Delphine played with any of the other hardware before us. Um, they were probably busy and finishing one of the game anyway. So,
If I can just say
yeah.
something, earlier you mentioned the Atari ST with the demo. When I was hired, I also had just my university, and the only thing I could show was also the same demo that we had been showing. And Fred Reynald said, "Well, I'm not interested by demos at all. I like game and thing, but I can recognize the amount of work and dedication made to spend 2 or 3 years of your life working for something for free and ending up releasing it at the European level with even having some article in magazines. If you can do that for free on a demo, you can probably do that for a video game." Which I guess was a relatively sane approach to the question.
Indeed. It showed the passion and dedication at least, and yeah, I mean, we are crazy. Anyway, um,
Sure. Uh,
so
And I found that.
oh yeah,
So we had that on the glass door of our office. That was a please do not disturb at the PSX research and development.
And you remember who drew that? Was Didier?
I have no idea. That could actually have been me.
Okay. Nice.
On the Discord, there were some people who asked about the Adeline logo, and indeed,
Right.
there are different logos. So when I got my confirmation that I would be hired, that was that one. And then later on, it transitioned to that one. And they are both supposed to be a lioness, female lion. Except the first one, people thought it was like a rat or a squirrel or whatever. On the second one, people said it was a horse. So I think in terms of
I
targeting,
always thought
it was a
it was a
fail.
horse, to be honest.
Yeah.
Only later it kind of made sense that it will be a lioness. Yeah.
So, alors to continue on the LBA story. So
Right.
LBA was released at the end of the year. So I remember going in a few trade show with the team over there. It was funny. I was 21. Fuck. I mean, you were dragging me into a life that was insane. Going in the CTS in London, I was just partying like a crazy while talking with lots of people. Oh my god.
Oh, you
Yeah.
have it.
Fuck.
Nice.
Actually, I've never been to any other trade show in the world than with Adeline. I've done ACTS twice, but I never been to anywhere. No ACTS, no E3, no anything with Heliovision, Eden, or even Funcom. So that was crazy.
Well, that was crazy when we were so young. I mean, it was exciting. I mean, I'm gonna continue the console story and LBA, but um, the, I've been in many companies since then. I'm sure some have been like this, on their first day. But the ambience at Adeline, I know that some companies right now, even small companies in these companies, are very friendly, but in Adeline it was more than that.
For the
I mean,
family.
it was. I mean, we were getting like there was always a reason to make a party and drink and do crazy things and
Like the
play
entire
new
company will
things.
go snowboarding. We'll
Yeah,
take the
yeah.
entire weekend to go to Val Thorens or
I mean, the people were really connected. I guess perhaps because everybody was quite young. I mean, the oldest were Didier and Fred and Laurent, who were probably in their 30s at that time, and everybody else was between my age because I was probably one of the youngest, and them. And so, yeah, it was, I mean, the ambience and how people live and outside work and work. I mean, well, the two of us were, I guess, the extreme bunch because we were really mixing the private life and the work life. Because at some point where I mean I was often like sleeping in the office, so I was like totally the- basically if I'm not in my office, I'm probably on the sofa sleeping. In my blue bag, there was a blue sleeping bag, and and um, and so it was really a crazy experience that not because I'm old and now I regret the young stuff, but I've seen many companies and I've never seen this kind of I'm sure it exists. I mean, but at least I didn't see it since then, even if it got close in some
yes,
cases.
same. And there were a directness in the way of communicating that I've not seen since. Now, if what we did at Adeline was done in any company I can think of, you will end up on the HR in the next 10 minutes. Like we will clearly say to somebody, your code suck. Not as a personal insult, but to the fact that for the project, they should not be allowed. How could you even come with the idea that it was acceptable to make such a piece of crap code? But that was fine because they could tell you the same thing. And the idea was not to take it personally, but to take it as for the greatness of the project.
Yeah, yeah, we were pretty. Yeah, it was very particular, and it was also particular because we had, I mean, a shitload of freedom. everything we've done in Adeline, even if they, I mean, Fred, Didier, ultimately the management, were deciding to what game we would work on ultimately. The rest is really up to the team. It's not up to a technical director or a creative director. It was the team. So yes, programmers, I mean, we were more focused on the tech side, but sometimes we would give input, and everything was so seamless.
Yeah, very organic.
It was super organic to a point where we were jumping on things from working with the artist, designer, the musician. Um, it it was super open, but there was no planning.
Like what?
Yeah, exactly. Not planning.
But you had a
And of
deadline,
course
right?
it was necessary.
You had a deadline.
Not really.
No?
Not really. The deadline, I think, was more or less like somebody figured out that the game, okay, we should probably, we are bleeding money and Delphine can't pay us anymore. We should probably try to get the game finished. We have this amount of bugs. Do you think we can do it in the next 2 months? And I think that's what this kind of thing, really. Like a
What?
little big adventure PlayStation, who said, yeah, we can do it in 2 months. And we did it in 4. Um,
Still pretty good,
yeah.
though.
But so I'm sure they had some roadmap, and there was some, of course, some business savvy in terms of deciding for a deadline, even if the deadline was probably not respected, and people got late, but that was what happened at the time. Um, the so what where was I on the console, because this is what we done. So after LBA shipped, at that time I started to mess with the PlayStation console, and got uh, Twinsen actually on the screen first in Point. I mean, and then I started to implement stuff. Started to implement basically the library that they had on PC, because the goal, and for us it was new. It was a new concept, was to try to do cross-platform code, or at least to be able to take easily the code from the PC and run it on a PlayStation. What a joke when you think about it. But but it was cool. It was a cool concept, and so I started to develop like all the library. Michael joined me shortly after, and at that time they told us to put LBA PlayStation on hold, and instead to jump on Time Commando. So in 1995, when you joined, was the call already made, Michael, or it was shortly after?
So when I joined, Franz Cornil had already made the first version of the script compiler language. TCD did not exist yet. There were a core game running, and there were some bad ideas already implemented, like actually program in C the behavior of the enemies. The idea was to have a meta piece of code able to handle every type of fight, close combat, jumping, throwing shurikens, all in one single piece of code, which get Among Us and Among Us. We have a scripting system. Why do we even need to do that? Just implement the behavior of characters using the scripting system. So I took over that, and the France moved back to purely the PC code. But we did not have the core of the library. We were still doing things like a lib SVG ported lib3D. It was not there yet when I was there.
So, but the project was already started. So I guess probably I was
Yes,
started
Serge already had the first version of the video encoder
I would,
that
yeah.
already started.
But, okay, so well, I mean the dates are a bit blurred in my head. But so we started on the on Time Commando. That we become the sole focus. But and you will better understand the story later, going back to LBA PS1. Um, Time Commando, of course, would be done with the same library that LBA would be done. Were done, except that, of course, there was lots of new needs and new, I mean, technical needs being added to the table. So I was continuing actually my work to port the Adeline library into PlayStation, and sometimes got involved also in modifying slightly some stuff for the Adeline library on PC. and the idea to have a set of library that is pretty much identical. We never exactly got to that point, but between PC and PlayStation, so that indeed code can be ported very easily. It's not yet cross-platform compilation, but it's at least you take the code, you tweak it slightly, and it works out of the box. That was the idea. And so we focus on this, of course, with Time Commando being a new beast in terms of technical requirements and how we're going to build the content of Time Commando. There was a need for more tools, and that's where Michael actually continued, because he started his life working on tool before. If we can get back to it, but actually he jumped and he took care of TED and everything that was attached to it, I believe.
So when we were making demos, making code for demos is a thing, but sometimes you need to do like edit some graphics, make some palette conversion, some fade to black, fade to color, convert sprite. So I was already used to do a lot of small tools for all our demos. And so when we started working on at Adeline, I did the same thing, what we called moulinette in French. Put something in the input, get something in the output. Many of them were text-based, like we had the ACF to XEF. ACF is the PC video format of Time Commando, but it was optimal for x86. It was not optimal for the MIPS CPU. MIPS CPU was not very good with bytes. So we had to use a different format because else the decoding was too slow. So I made a converter to transcode all the videos. We actually did some parallel export for all the assets to convert, to make a new version of the build. We needed to, for example, re-export all the levels with all the scenes, all the characters. We're talking 95, 96 technologies. That was not super efficient. So the method I found out is everybody that will go back home in the evening will run a small batch file, which will run a small program waiting for some command on the network share. And then I could run in parallel on every single machine. Okay, I'm taking level 1. Okay, I'm taking level 3. On Monday, I got Emmanuel Walid coming. I'm not sure what happened to the Windows server, but it crashed. Because I managed to find a way to crash Windows NT by doing a batch file, checking for a file existence way too fast. But yeah, that's what kind of thing we were doing. A lot of tools to make things better. And this approach of doing tooling, I've been using during all the rest of my career after that.
And it's important. The idea is the tool, not only the tool and the converter, as Michael said, but he was also doing the user interface and the idea, and I actually used that also later on, even if I was more on the game development side than the tool development side, but especially when I got into management, is that the tools are important, and often enough there was a mentality among the development scene that if an artist do something wrong, then it's because he's clueless. It's because you ask him to do eventually this and that in the specific order because it's very technical constraint. And the idea really with the tool is that everything should be what the user shouldn't care about should be hidden. Like if there is an issue, it's actually the tool that should be fixing it or catching it. If you export a level and there is something wrong, it shouldn't crash the whole pipeline. It should actually tell to the user that indeed here or there is an issue and eventually how to fix it. That will be the core philosophy after that. But
yeah, I have a good example for that one. Like when I took over the level editor for Time Commando, to load a level, you have the file selector where you will have to select a file on disk. The first thing I did was to replace that by a single dialogue with which level, scene 1, scene 2. So instead of trying to figure out which thing, you load the Far West level 1 or the Conquistador level 2. And when you press save, it knows what you're currently working on and it saves it at the right place in the right folder, because before you had to select and select and select. People will overwrite the Conquistador with the Far West, and that's a tooling thing.
And just a quick note for people that are more in the, that knows a little bit about development, one way or another, is that we were not using source control. That would be too easy.
Yeah, we had the network share, like F://, and we will copy locally, do things. And
So
we were very
we
rare
were
to block the
working
build.
basically on a file, I mean on a shared network space ultimately, and we were working directly in it. So if you delete a file there, you have to
You
go back to the menu and beg him to actually look at the few backups that he has on the previous day, if eventually he can get something. And the backup were tapes. I mean, it's and so indeed to prevent this, well, often enough you copy things locally, you work locally, and then you copy back and forth, hoping that nobody eventually worked on the same file. Otherwise, bad thing happen. So the you have to imagine that it's tough to do this when when you're even a small team nowadays. Unless people are really focused on working on specific files or specific modules, or and people are dedicated. I guess,
Ownership, that's the key
yeah,
word. We had ownership. This
yes,
person is doing this level, this person is doing libsvg, this person is doing lib3d, and if you need to touch something else which belongs to somebody else, you go talk to them.
yeah. There was this indeed. There was also the fact that I guess it was a little bit easier for us. I mean, for you on the tool, but on console, there was only us, the two of us. So, and we were in the same office. So basically, you just had to turn left or
busy,
right,
yeah.
and discuss and eventually shout because you're not happy about
You
something.
break the build!
And yeah, so that was that's how it worked. So Time Commando was an interesting piece in terms of tech, because um, the game actually Debug, I'm sure can talk about it, did some crazy thing with the script of Time Commando, with the language, and did some what we could call AI like at that time. It's not AI of the current sense of it, of course, but and um, and on the tech side for the video compression for PlayStation, for the fact that it could run on a freaking CD that is not reading very fast, being read very fast on PlayStation. There was a lots of really technical challenges that were extremely interesting. We had to optimize. So I was doing lots of stuff related to this. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, so just about video compression, I had some people during the year who asked me, but why did you not use a MDEC chip? Because the PlayStation has a hardware decoding, it can play JPEG video, etc. Oh, that's a fair question. The thing is, it's 16-bit graphics. It's actual RGB, and we did not have enough texture memory to store the video background on the texture on the frame buffer because we wanted to be in a high medium resolution. And by using our own 266 color codec, it will be using basically half the texture memory. So there is some reason behind the madness. We just
Yeah.
not do it because we can.
It's actually a pretty.
Mm.
I saw. Well, I read your article about the video decoding, and it's pretty complex, to be honest. How you guys end up with that?
It's a Serge Planiol who did most of it, and some of the stuff came from a researcher that he knew from his background. Serge is one of the guys with the most diploma I can think of. And he knew a lot of people much smarter than me. All I did basically is the codec conversion and implementation on MIPS,
Mhm.
which is the kind of thing which is interesting for me.
And it's funny
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
looking at the AOB2 source code, the ACF is there. So it looks like you have
Oh, is it?
possible, yeah, possible being used for LBA2 at some stage, and then they converted to Smacker at some point.
Yeah,
Well,
so it was not made to be the most efficient packing algorithm. It was made to be CPU efficient at decompressing because you need to run a game at the same time. While most of the cutscene in LBA is just a cutscene. You show some pre-render stuff. You don't care if you use 100% CPU as long as it displays properly.
yeah, and we had to do the also the fact that you could go behind the background, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and for this, because I remember I took care of this for PC and PlayStation. It was also a challenge by itself, because we had no Z buffer at that time. So for a long time actually the game was you couldn't go in front of it. Yeah, you couldn't go in behind like object of the background of Little Big Adventure. Sorry, thanks Mondo. My bad. And so we had to calculate all the places where the player could go to isolate the pieces of graphic with the Z buffer coming from 3ds Max that could go in front of it, and then packets. And in each frame, actually there was lots of metadata because it was a custom format indeed for the video compression, but not just for the video. It's because lots of things were attached to the freaking frame. So there were chunks that were responsible for telling you where the camera should be, of course, because everything is pre-calculated, and we want the 3D to be coherent with the video stream. But also like the pieces of graphics that should be placed at certain depth, and it's not pixel because it would be way too expensive. So we are grouping things while they could be coherent and creating one sprite and saying this one, well, average should be, the Z should be there. So that when the characters or anything in 3D go behind it, they will be overwritten because things will be drawn in the order, from the far Z to the close Z, and the sprites were part of this sort. Yeah.
Yeah, so just for the people watching the stream, I know many of them are a big fan of LBA, not Time Commando, and that's the 30th anniversary of LBA.
But
But
that's fine, we can talk
Time
about
Commando is
that.
important in the context that the LBA PS6 version would not have been developed that fast and with such a decent level of quality if we had not spent so much time doing all this technology and on learning about the PlayStation while working on Time Commando. So without Time Commando, you would have a shitty version of LBR.
Actually, you would have had the Japanese
The
version of
Japanese
LBA
version, yes.
on PlayStation, which I don't know if you guys know about it, but we can talk about it.
Yeah, we can talk
That
about
one.
it, yeah.
You still have it?
Yeah, I bought it on eBay.
Oh
I
yeah,
bought it on eBay a few years ago. So that's the PlayStation Japanese, and that's the version we made.
And the PlayStation Japanese is in 2 CD, if I remember properly.
Is it?
Yeah, I remember you had to switch. No?
No, I only see one.
Okay, well that's I'll have to double check. I remember that it did not fit on one because what they did was basically porting the assembly code to I mean converting anything that was PC based to not an emulator but to C, and then compiling. The thing was slow like hell, and
Actually, I saw some recent videos of the final release, and it's much faster than the thing we were shown. So I believe they probably realized that their version was a piece of crap and invested a bit of time to re-implement some stuff.
but which is crazy because we had it at
Yes,
that
I don't know
time.
why.
So ultimately, indeed, as Michael said, like the Time Commando for us, as I explained earlier, was really like the finish for the library to really get to our hand, because ultimately we were pretty young in the company, to really start to own pieces of lands, not only on PlayStation but across the board. So I ended up, I don't remember why, but I ended up working on compression algorithm. I'm a dropout from
It's
school.
admit.
I know shit about math, so I mean a few that I learned by myself. But it was, I loved it. I read the entire book. I started to mess up with it and came up with a version of LZ 77 that was slightly modified, pretty optimized. And optimized because I could actually compress better than the freaking thing, just because I was using some tricks here and there on the bit encoding. And on top of this, that was allowing you to uncompress on the spot, rather than loading a compressed file and then allocating a bunch of memory where you're going to uncompress. The idea was to first allocate only one size of memory, put the thing that you will uncompress at the end, and basically have something that will uncompress, and it force you and give you in the format a bit of overhead that you need to allocate, so that it's not going to write on itself on what it's reading. But the idea was to really optimize the memory management on console.
And
the
it's
thing
still
is-
in use.
Sorry?
It's still in use. So we took that with us at Heliovision. and I took it with me at Eden Games. So every Heliovision or Eden game made until I left Eden around 2000. So that would include Kaya Dark Lineage, Verali, Test Drive Unlimited, is using the LZ Meet literally as is. And all my Atari and Eric demos, including the game I'm working on right now, is also using that converted to 6502 or 68K to decompress on the fly real time from the floppies at the LZ Meet.
And why LZ made it LZ? Because I mean the original algorithm was really me implementing and learning about. I mean I learned about multiple compression algorithm, but LZ77 was really the one that strikes me as being the best in terms of speed, performance, and the output for the time at least. And Meat because it was my nickname, and so yeah, that's how the LZ Meat came up to life. And so that was on PC, that was on PlayStation. So really, we were getting as discussed, we're starting to own pieces of transversal technology that was used on LBA2, because LBA2 was being developed while Time Commando was being worked on. Um, and really we were building, at least on PlayStation, everything that we would need to actually, beside the expertise on our side, to actually be very efficient at porting a game. I mean, I've worked for companies that have been doing ports, and you could say that porting a game in 4 months eventually is always possible. Yes, when you do a shitty job, yes, it's always possible to go fast and cut corners and do something kind of okay, but because the price is, if the time is short, usually is because the price, I mean, the cost is compressed as well, and you try to get the best for what you have, and you can end up with doing something okay, but under the hood is probably lots of cutting corners and lots of shitty things. Whereas when we actually started after Time Commando, so I'm doing a quick jump forward. We can go back to the rest before that happened in the meantime. But when we started LBA on PSX, actually we were not really concerned, which is stupid, but we are still young, on the technical aspect of the port, but more like what we are going to do more better. And so we started to do
Which we did, which we did.
yes, which we did, yeah.
I mean,
So
the PlayStation version, you can jump, press pause, and save. And then when you reload, Twinson is still jumping and then land on the floor running. Like, why would you do that? Why? Because we can.
yeah, so everything we learned because we were playing also LBA1. So everything that not only came up in the newspaper, but the press or the reviews, but that we deemed as important to be corrected, we corrected. And sometimes we were not asking Fred or anything. We were just doing the shit, and that's and eventually presenting it afterwards.
Yeah,
But
like in LBA2, you don't hurt yourself when running because of the LBA PSX. And I had my own private fight with Fred because, not sure if you remember the first PlayStation pad before the DualShock, before the analog stick. You just had the D-pad, which was very flimsy and inaccurate. Try to run in a sportive mode with a stupid D-pad, which is this size under your thumb, and not collide with the wall. So I disabled that, and Fred said, no, you're not allowed. Okay, use that, cross the kitchen without hitting. Tried 6 times, okay, you can do it. And the reason was that the children shouldn't be taught to not run in the kitchen or something like that, which makes sense, but sometimes the reality of the thing is, it is just not funny to play. And if your reflex is to take the pad and throw it in the wall, yeah, that's not good.
So porting LBA, I mean, on PSX was we had lots of things specific to the PSX. I mean, yeah, we wanted it to be nicer. We didn't want like a crappy PlayStation game that really you look at PlayStation game, you look at the PC game, and ah shit, you see that it's in low res compared to the other one. So we wanted freaking high res. So actually already did it for Time Commando. So LBA and Time Commando are one of the only few games because there are not that many that are in double horizontal resolution. So 640 by 256, if I'm remembering correctly, no?
Yeah, 240 for
Yeah,
PAL,
240
256 for NTSC.
for PAL, yeah.
Yes,
So it was,
256 for PAL,
yeah,
240 for. Yeah.
and 240 for NTSC. Well, most of the other games were actually in 320,
Wow.
and so you have twice the granularity, the detail, and it was crazy because of all the. Yeah, that means you have less VRAM for
Yeah,
everything else.
it doubles the screens, which means less texture page, less everything, which means we had to work. I spent months working on a tool to create texture pages allocation for all the small
Right.
tiles to
Yeah.
try to optimize. So if it's more large and tall, we put it like that. If it's taller than large, we put it like that, and you put in diagonal, and then you try to
Yeah, because
only try all the permutation in assembler. It was a nightmare. Cedric
because
Bermond helped at some point.
yeah, the thing is that of course it was fixed GPU pipeline, so you didn't have shaders. I mean everything was pre pre-wired. So it also means that the GPU, if your screen, if what you're drawing on is larger, what the GPU will take more time drawing it. So of course we wanted to have something also that was pretty fast. So yes, we were crazy about detail. That's why
Even
nobody would care.
even the fonts are optimized. The texture page containing the char set. We supported the German, Spanish, French, English. So we had the accent, we had the N tilde thingy. And so when you have the O with an accent and the O with a tilde, because the O has the same shape, one accent is on the top, one is at the bottom, and the sprite is rendered as flipped, so it looks correctly. So it could be rendered as a one single primitive instead of two, while taking as little room as possible.
The VRAM, yeah, because transfer between the VRAM and the main RAM is damn slow. So you could not do it really. I mean, you could, but it
And
was
it gets slower on Rev B of the PlayStation, just faster on Rev A.
yeah. I don't remember the.
I remember because during Time Commando, when you pause, you have this. I gray out the screen and then I do a distorter by copying thing. And the guy from Sony said, "Be careful, Rev B is slower by the rendering of Guro shaded primitive is faster by 15%, but the DMA is slower by this amount. So I reduce the amount of line to move." But yeah, a lot of stuff like that.
So on PlayStation again, I mean, we wanted to do a quick save because of course the saving on PlayStation is not I mean, it's a big deal. You are saving on some physical cards that you have to insert on the PlayStation, or and we'll talk about it, the extender.
Uh,
And it's super slow to save on this thing. And so even when we were playing, I don't think that it came up immediately, but when we were playing and testing, it was just a pain. I mean, this thing you could have error writing. I mean, there could be tons of issues. So it's like, let's do a quick save in memory, of course, because we have so much memory. I mean, come on. And so we did a save in memory so that you could actually play save in memory. Of course, if someone unplug your console, you'll cry. So you need to still save pretty often on the card. But that was one of the I don't remember everything, so yeah, we did some stuff. We were going too much in the detail. The extender, we managed like every.
Multitap, yes. I made a custom save screen where all the multitap you had were displayed graphically, and you could select the port you wanted, etc. And the guy at Sega of Europe told us that internally in the QA they were using that to copy file because that was better than the built-in copy thing. But they asked us nicely to remove the support for multitap, I think, from the final version because there were some versions of the multitap which were not reliable and they prefer people to not use it to save, just to use more pads.
So the multitap, yeah, was an extender where you could plug more
Yeah, four
gamepad.
pads, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was crazy. So LBA for us, and I'm not sure if people saw it. We are very proud of tons of things that would never be seen on it, but really, I mean, I think the look and feel people saw the difference of because we were really proud to be really close to the PC version with. I mean, we had less memory, freaking 2 meg. No,
Yeah, 2 meg of RAM, 1 meg of VRAM, or 500K of audio RAM,
yeah. So we had everything is
and no hard drive.
yeah, no hard drive, everything loaded. So it has to be fast, smooth, beautiful. and really like all the love that went into this place. I mean, this was insane. And to be honest, nowadays this kind of thing you cannot afford it unfortunately in most of the company that I've seen, because most of these efforts done by us wouldn't be validated first. I mean, because there is a cost. What is the return on investment? And at that time, the ROI, we didn't care about it. What we cared about coming from the demo scene was, let's just do something that kick ass and that really we would be proud of.
That being
Um,
said, we gave our hours.
yes,
I
so
mean, there is
that's
a reason why we are calling ourselves. I mean, the publisher for Time Condo was Activision. And on the Thursday in France, it's the student evening where people are going to nightclub and things like that. Quite often with Olivier and some friend, we will go to the nightclub, then come back at 2 o'clock, stop by Adeline because that was on the way to our apartment, check if there were some faxes on the machine, eventually see some bugs. Oh yeah, I know what it is, can fix that. And then the phone will call, Adeline 2424, may I help you? Because we knew that would be somebody in the US. And then we will eventually make a fix. So it will be the fix, we'll burn a CD, and we will leave it in the entrance with a message for Emmanuel or Serge saying, can you call UPS or FedEx or whatever? And they will have it in the morning to send it to the airport where it will be sent to the publisher. And then we will go to bed and then come back at 10 or 11.
yeah,
It was crazy.
it was crazy. But again, it's as stupid. I mean, we can say that because there was no organization, because planning were crazy. That Adeline was responsible for it. But to be honest, it's no, it's us. I mean, there were some people at Adeline that really worked 9 to 5 and
Mm.
stick to it. I mean, sticking to it, and there were no issue for them. But we were coming from the demo where programming was our life period. Uh, um, we actually imported this into a working life, which
It
was
was
a
still a
mistake.
hobby,
I mean,
right?
even if we were super passionate about it. So again, the work environment was really our life environment. Um, and yes, that was crazy. So going back to LBA PlayStation, so yeah, for 4 months, give or take. I think he had some success because really it was well, I wouldn't say improved. That will be an overstatement, but given the constraint, technical constraint compared to the PC that had everything you want in terms of storage, memory, etc. It was a crazy achievement to cram up everything in that small box, trying to achieve still high resolution and pretty good frame rate. So and adding some correction on LBA, which I think was not added until years later when Seb actually did his own stuff, his own patch for like not hitting the wall when you are running and so on and so on. So
Yeah, he worked in
but of course,
LBA Win.
it
Yeah.
was released in 1997, 1997, which was way after Time Commando. I mean, right after Time Commando, just before we left Adeline, ultimately.
Yeah, so originally Fred asked if we could make LBA2 on PS6. I say, listen, LBA2 is still being worked on, and LBA1 is a much smaller game. Maybe we should try to make LBA1 first. We think we can make it in 2 months. Famous last words.
I think he said
And
three. I don't know.
yeah, I remember too, but yeah, it could be. But yeah, cocky amount of time. And if it works well, then we can reuse that since LBA2, I mean, the interiors are the same. It's also using isometric tiles and things.
Right.
If that works, we can start working on the 3D part for the outside, etc. And that never happened, and they decided to stop with the console development, so we left.
Yeah.
Regarding the family side, I have some examples. So that's when I got my 25th birthday. So I got everybody signing with the DDA, making some graphics, etc. So that's typically kind of a cool thing. And I also got a nasty car crash during the development of Time Commando. And well, I got the company actually. So that's a letter from Fred when he left me his Game Boy with Zelda, Donkey Kong, Marble Madness, etc. giving, well, I hope you will not need the thingy zoomer light because it's very heavy. You will see how your hands are. You don't see the border of the screen. That's super annoying when you're playing Zelda, etc. So, I mean, that's the lead of the studio letting you his own console. And then I got the company getting me some actual facts sent about me to get some comic books on my final message saying a thank you to everybody for the books, etc. That was really we take care of our own.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, I mean, Adeline should have continued on. I mean, what happened and why we left is another story, and it should we have stayed in Adeline perhaps, but we know all the fate of Adeline afterwards anyway. So going to no cliche, and then unfortunately the end of it. Um, but even with people that join afterwards that we knew less, I know that it continued like it was. So I would have loved actually for Adeline to survive and continue and strive. Of course, this model couldn't have scaled up, obviously, but it was working with 15, 20 people, which is already quite impressive, to be honest. Of course, at some point, people starting to have kids, so but there was still the spirit of family, and yeah, that's something that definitely I've missed, or that I find it sad that other company do not have, and perhaps I don't know, perhaps because many of us were too passionate, which is always a double-edged sword.
Incur with it,
Regarding
right?
team
It
size,
was your first jobs, right? In Adeline, was it? If it was
Sorry?
the first job, it was Adeline, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Good.
Well, we're, I mean, job, official job, yes. I've done some of the work again. I mean, to survive and get some money to party and so on when I was at my parents. So loading unloading truck, and at some point we even got involved into video game development. Before that, because one of our friends, which was the leader of our Demoscene group, founded a company in Marseille called Expo Software on Atari and Amiga, and so we were not we were sometimes working for things for him, but we were not paid was nothing. I mean, actually, I got he gave me one STE at some point, but that's it's it's not the same. You see what I mean?
Right.
It's not a real company. It wasn't a real setup. We were not joining there, and
having your name
uh,
in the credits of an official game released, that's important.
yeah.
Yeah, there's
So
probably more dedication as well, right,
and
from
we
you
had
guys.
we were we needed to learn a lot. Of course, self-education. I mean, everything that we could do by ourselves and by ourselves was good. But getting some knowledge from those guys who just before LBA did the Alone in the Dark and plenty of other games, 2D and 3D. I mean, everything that they passed along and gave us as knowledge. Especially, I mean, I can say for everything I've learned on programming, architecture of code. I mean, for God's sake, I was coming from assembly language where splitting a file is pretty much the only thing that you're doing in terms of architecting the code. So we are doing some of it. I exaggerate, of course, Michael, but the 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 point is that going to see and really learning from those guys. I mean, has been a life changer, and it was really genuinely done really well and very. It was not a course. It was lots of things were still the way you were doing it, meaning learn by yourself. There is a dog, have fun. But they were there. We could ask questions. They were super responsive. People were super nice with you, even if, like me, I mean, I was super cocky as a programmer, so I would assume that whatever happened is not my fault first, uh, where it probably was my fault, and that, of course, I was criticizing others' code before looking at mine. So and they were nice. They should have thrown me against the wall 1,000 times, and they did not. And well, ultimately, I started to manage my ego, but it took a long time.
What I found interesting is that I met again later in the career some of the Adeline people. Some join as testers or graphic artists at Heliovision, at Eden. Then recently at Funcom, briefly worked with Olivier through his third-party studio, which helped on the project. So it's interesting to see. It's like parallel careers, but we keep in touch. And because it's family and we keep it in touch, that's why I got the Little Big Adventure Symphonic Suite signed by Didier with a picture behind. That's also why people are wondering about the Sender Medallion. It came with it came with
I
the
didn't get
symphonic version.
I have
But,
one
uh,
myself, yeah.
And ultimately, I'm not sure where I was going, where we were going in terms of the story. I think LBA1, we talked about PSX, PC.
What we
Uh,
learned,
Do,
what
do
we
you
learned
know
from
how
Adeline.
impactful the what you guys did
Yeah,
in
the
both
team.
LBA1 and Time Commando end up translating that to
Yeah.
the other games, like maybe Toy Commander or Toy Racer?
What time we were not there. Almost first I misunderstood your question. Sorry.
No, but just in terms of the technology that you guys build, if you know that it end up being used and shared as well in the other
I
games.
guess some of it because, but I do not know because we were not there, so we don't know the scale of it. Uh, I guess for the PlayStation side, I think that something crazy happened. I mean, from my point of view, is that apparently they didn't took a lot of archive because when they were trying to do the mobile version, I think of LBA, they asked me if I had a backup for the PlayStation source, uh, and they couldn't find it. They lost
Wow.
it.
Yeah,
They actually
same for me. I have all the backup of everything for Time
yeah.
Commando, for all the games I worked since,
And
or most of them. But LBA PS6, no traces. And it's not just the game, it's the tools, the converters, the script, nothing. It's like the entire LBA PS6 project
It's
just
gone.
vanish off the side of the universe.
when
Wow.
we were talking yesterday evening, I actually brought like a big bag that is from I mean, I have plenty of stuff. Then again, uh, perhaps it's time to show the goodies the whole goodies that we have. Michael has more than me potentially.
Please do.
I mean, but I have a bunch of stuff. I think. Well, of course, I have some
I
LBA.
managed to find my original Adeline software t-shirt from 30 years ago, and it doesn't even have any holes in it, which is kind of an achievement.
Yeah, I have some. I have things that are still under plastic.
Wow.
For time
Shrink
command, it's
wrap,
still under
yeah.
plastic. Yeah, and yeah, LBA1 PC, of course. I have stuff that you had, and I saw it on your website, Mike, about the Time Commando envelope that are still closed. I guess
Yeah,
those
mine
are.
is open. I can show to people. So basically, that was supposed to simulate like a plastic shrink wrap, like some soda in powder, containing some magic stuff. And what is inside? It's various very high quality Photoshop type thing with a Stanley in various weird setups. I don't know who did that. It was not us. I believe it's probably somebody at Delphin's marketing.
Yeah.
And I also have that one, which is the Time
Watch.
Commando watch, uh, which has hands turning backward because it's time travel, of course. Uh, this thing, which was one, what they call publicité, that they were putting in shops, so to advertise the game.
Yeah,
Earlier, you were asking, so that one was never actually released. If you look here, it's a fake version number. I think it was a prototype box. Uh, so the game was not released. So, but yeah, it was a
Looks really nice.
kind of thing I've kept.
I'm sure I have some of the early burn version of LBA PSX somewhere. I already found some CDs with the backup of the source. But again, I searched when Didier asked me a while back. Didier or Fred, I don't remember, who contacted me. I searched all these CDs and I couldn't find it. It was driving me nuts. I mean, I'm a paranoiac of archiving. I have stuff from the old Atari days, all the backup of the source that are probably unreadable nowadays.
Not
And
true. Based on my statistics, probably 80% or 90% are still correct.
good.
Except if they were HD floppies reformatted to DD. Here you can assume that 50% are dead.
Fuck. Okay. But there is something actually. Just looking quickly to see if I can find it. There is something that I found that you guys may actually see one day when I have the time. Is so something crazy happened because I was super proud. First job, you get money, you live by yourself. I left my parents, so I was 21 or well, yeah, 21 ultimately, and and they didn't have the only computer they had was the Atari that I left at home, the Falcon, because it was I did the software for my mom business at that time. And when I got home, uh, I guess I showed them what the game was about because there was no PC at home, uh, and because it was back from the first version from the LBA1 PC, and so I guess I brought at home this, which is a VHS. I'm not sure if you can read it. No, it's blurry, but it
Close.
basically say presentation. It's in French. Présentation Little Big Adventure CD-ROM PC, copyrighted in software 1994. So it was a marketing tape from 1994, which has I don't know shit on it. And I probably brought it to my parents to show them the game very proudly, and left it there for whatever reason. And my parents moved out last year from the place they lived since that time, and my father found this and gave it back to me.
Wow,
And
that's
it's
pretty
just
cool.
interesting because
We love
I
to
don't
see
know.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not very long for what I can see, but still. So there is probably 30 minutes. Perhaps there is some stuff with the teams. Who knows?
Yeah.
So I need to find in Brussels like a services to numerize it.
I'm
And
still
I,
waiting for my parents to find a lost CD of LBA PS6 source code.
yeah, and the crazy thing is that on the backups that I have, so I have backups like Archive, PSX, PlayStation, Adeline software. I have like Leap Source, PSX, but all the data from 95, 96, 94, uh, uh, and I have nothing from 97 when before we left. So that's where we would have done the backup at least of what we worked on, LBA PSX. So that's I don't know. Perhaps there is a little devil that went in everybody's package and took the source of LBA1 PSX where it was.
Or
Uh,
maybe we were so pissed off, annoyed by the fact that we did not really get a real answer about will there be a a console department after that we did not give a crap on, did not make copies. That's a possibilities. That would be
yeah,
sad.
yeah,
Wait,
yeah, yeah.
not even the first 2 months that you guys work on it before you pause for Time Commando?
Well, that I would probably have
Okay.
somewhere in those. Yes, I think I would have. Um, but what I had at that time is not really the game. It was like PCs, like rendering 3D
Right.
object.
Just
Um,
the
because I was
experimentations.
working on library, like rendering part of an
Right.
object is library. Everything was linked, which was really cool in the pipeline, in the production pipeline of LBA ultimately and admin software in general, which I think influenced us a lot for the future. Is everything seamlessly integrated in terms of the tools, the library, the runtime, and how things. It was when you looked at that time, or even, I mean, not that long
Nowadays.
ago, on the pipeline that I could see with Maya or 3ds, like, and then you need to convert this, and then you need to do that, and everything is super. I mean, error prone. Everything is actually not integrated, and of course, some people and many studios do some integration and something that will hide this. But that's also the philosophy of Adeline is that, except for Time Commando, where the graphics were done with 3ds Max,
No,
because
3D
everything was
Max
done
was not there
together.
released.
Uh,
3DS4.
sorry, 3ds whatever, yeah, the thing was because the video, of course, would be pre-rendered and it would be pre-rendered by this. Of course, on LBA1, the video was done by Fred, not Fred
Frédéric
Renard,
Taquet.
but Frédéric Taquet, who was doing it on help me
Silicon Graphics?
on Silicon Graphics. So every that's why it
Soft
was
Image, yeah. Soft Image 3D.
yeah on Silicon. So he had a specific computer. So beside those two parts, um, everything was done with custom tools developed by Adeline. So and we stupidly actually took this philosophy later on, at least me, further in the next endeavor that we did, and started to rebuild everything internally, which is at some point so expensive that it was a bad idea, not for everything, but for some anyway. And but it was so nice because nowadays, you have something that doesn't work in the tool, it's shitty. Eventually, you have some extension mechanism, or eventually, if you're lucky, the tool is open source. But here, we wanted to have something. We talk quickly, and we add it in the freaking tool or the freaking pipeline, and it works out of the box. Everybody's happy, and then this is the new way to work. Everything was so fast in the way we could do things, changing, adapt the way we work. Um, Even if I look back at some of the tools that were made at the time, and to be honest, they were not super user friendly, but compared to the rest, they were really super cool because really super focused on what we needed.
Yeah,
Ultimately,
like I have an example. So Animate, the animation package, which I have the full manual here with quite a few pages. We want, obviously, it was a PC tool, and we wanted to allow the artists to visualize as early as possible on the PlayStation to see how their model looks like. And we had found out that in the Sony SDK, there were some tools to upload an executable on the PlayStation. So obviously, the PC was able to write to the memory of the dev kit. So we ripped out the internals of the tool to see what it did. Oh, here is a function that uploads thing. And integrated that in Animate, so you press a button, poof, the thing appears on the TV, and you can rotate the mesh in the PC, and poof, after 1 second in rotate. It was not real time, but it was with 1 second delay. You will see what you see is what you get directly on the console, on the TV screen on the side.
so we did also something on the for Time Commando. Time Commando was reading the video feed from the CD, so of course, well, you cannot play the music at the same time. And I mean, at least not on the movie side, and it would be too big. So what happened is that while the PC, of course, on the PC versions of Time Commando, there was all this sound card back then. I mean, it was a big deal. Either you have shitty sound card and still what we call beep beep, or you have a sound card that can do sample and everything can be different. So Philippe Vachet, the musician, of course, wanted his music to be the best possible. On LBA1, it was not an issue because those were AAC tracks that were burned on the CD, real audio tracks, so not a problem. But for Time Commando, again, not possible. So everything would be MIDI. So it was a MIDI file that was played in real time. And there was already something on the PlayStation that exists, but it didn't work very well. It was the early days of the PlayStation, ultimately in 1995, and so we read something that will read his MIDI file, a tool that will allow him to build his sound bank for the PlayStation, and the runtime that would play the MIDI file. I had lots of fun. It was crazy again in terms of return on investment, but so I made like a MIDI player with all the tools that are necessary to build and adapt from MIDI file that he was developing on Cubase, and really looked and sound on the PlayStation like super great because he had his own sample. It would be from the same as a sound card, top of line sound card on PC, but at least it was consistent for all the user. Whereas on PC, depending if you had a shitty sound card, you're really gonna have a shitty sound or music during the game. So Philippe really loved the working with the target of the PlayStation, because what he hear is what he got, what the user will get. And we did also the trick of using I mean, not a dev kit, but actually the
Debug
PlayStation
station.
with a connection on the back, and basically he had even from his tool a way to directly play on his sound room the thing from the PlayStation, so he could hear
Was it with the
directly.
action replay?
It was with an action replay that we hacked.
Yeah,
Yeah,
action replay on the debug station or something like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah. Later on, I used it actually to even develop on PlayStation, but I shouldn't say it too loud. But so yes, we used it to upload the sound, the MIDI file, etc., and launch a small program that will just do that. And it was cool. So again, like integrating all the pipelines to get it to get the look and feel, or hear the sound, of course, on the target platform.
Yeah, I
Very
think
nice.
we are probably safe in terms of number of years for the thing we did at Heliovision. The company had so little money that we could not get many dev kits or official debug stations. So we were using software emulation, homemade, and hacked version of console. Yeah,
Yes, that wasn't
you do what you have to do.
exactly like in many
But
things.
when you say that we took all the thing we learned at Adeline when we moved to Audiovision, rebuild thing, and it was crazy, it's because we also took from Adeline the total inability to have any project management on timeline, on evaluation. And so
Well,
that makes sense.
the lack of calculating the return on investment on something that you're going to
Yeah.
invest time, money ultimately on is something that we're totally clueless. I mean, when I actually got really and then you're, I mean, well, that's what happened to at Adeline, but even further at the next company. When you're kind of in charge and then you don't know what playing look like, you never estimated a freaking task, you never did due diligence, never think about the return on investment and so the cost. And when you hit the wall really badly multiple times, then you start to really reconsider. But it took some really I mean painful experience to really, so that's perhaps that helped Adeline to be indeed that friendly, that family-like, because it was not corporate at all. Because the only corporation was that we could feel is what when Delphine or someone from Delphine will actually drop at the studio, which was really rare, to be honest. So the rest was just us in Lyon, Adeline, and except when we were visiting in Paris, which was really cool. And you could feel a little bit more the corporate aspect there, but Adeline it didn't exist. But perhaps so the lack of planning, the lack of pressure helped to have that environment that perhaps would have existed differently. I mean, I remember sometimes we were put under pressure because everybody was late. It's like, ah, shit, no more money, we have to ship it. So what can we do? But so it just put more pressure and more focus, but really didn't change the feeling within the company at the time.
Just a question. So you had a bunch of questions on Discord. Maybe we
Oh yeah,
should
sorry.
address these.
On Discord or
I had, but a lot of them, to be honest, you guys already answer. Um,
Wow, we are so good. We're on surfing. We don't even know where
you,
to
you
ask.
just made my life easier, to be honest.
So earn your keep. What are the questions that remain?
Let me just double check. I think fond memories. You guys have spoke most of the time about it, right? So,
Oh, you're cutting.
yeah, I think my sound is having some issues, to be honest.
You're,
You can hear, right?
it's also the video. You look kind of compressed.
Mm, slightly. Indeed.
A bit better, yes.
It's funny. Well, I
Yeah, I don't mind. Personally, if there were a version 1.5 of Time Commando, the thing I would have done is to play the game backward, starting by giving the player all the fancy laser, bomb, monomolecular filament, fighting robots and things, and that progressively go down in terms of technology and end up with basically an actual beat them up with actual advanced close combat. Instead of starting by the first level where you have stones, a knife, and it's the first level, so it has to be simple for the player. Except if you try to switch the level around, it will fail because we encoded the level number in the scene files, so you will have to patch the game.
Yeah.
My fault.
And so, if I can add something about we are in a community that are fans for LBA. I mean,
Wait, it looks like people on the streams are saying that they can't hear you.
Yeah, I think that's. I think I can talk with you better when I disable on OBS, but then the sound doesn't
Then
go
they
through.
don't hear you, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
it
fix
looks
now,
like
he
it's
said.
work. Yeah.
Okay, good. So, okay, for us it was our first company, so perhaps it's some nostalgia. Perhaps there is part of it, but it's not. I don't think it's really the same way it has marked you. I mean, the Little Big Adventure, the game itself, etc. It's funny how along my career, so beside the fact that we never found exactly the same, every company, every human is different, but the we didn't find something that where people were that where the ambience was such a family as it was in Adeline, and but actually along my career, it every time I can I meet people. There are a few games that eventually I can talk of or that I worked on that flip a switch and that people say, "Oh yeah, really, you worked on this." And I was surprised that most of the time, of course, I worked on some FIFA games, so everybody knows FIFA. So that's not really the something that anyway I would be proud of. Yes, I would be proud of for other reason. But
FIFA, c'est de la balle.
sorry.
FIFA, c'est de la balle.
Uh, but the what do you say? Yes, but I mean, along the way, even like a few years back, I was at Gamescom and I'm meeting some guy that was an old employee of a studio that I led in Netherlands at some point, and introduced me one of his programmer, and we talk and we, chit chat and I don't know how it came up on the table. And the guy was just when he was super young, but I mean, the guy was, I don't know, in his 20s or 30s. I don't know how he got his hand on Time Commando, but he played, I guess, on something that belonged to his father on Time Commando, and it was like, wow, shit, you worked on Time Commando. I was like, yeah, it was a long time ago. It feels already that I'm pretty old. But it's impressive how some of those games really marked people for different reasons. Just because eventually it was some of the first games that they got their hand on, because indeed it was a little bit different than just the shoot them up or the beat them all that existed on the side. It was not the only games, of course, there that was impressive, but it left a mark. And I remember, like, even the musician I've been working on also in the same studio that I was leading. The guy was just in love with the music of LBA, and LBA's music is actually one the only one that I can still hear and not get sick about. Trust me, we worked on the Smurf for more than 2 years after that. The music of the Smurf, I just despise. I cannot hear it. I start to hear about the Smurf, I just want to throw up or turn it down. But it still brings lots of good souvenir, lots of memories, lots of fun. It's actually pleasant. So it's funny that after 30 years, the mark is still there and memory played, of course, but the feeling about the game itself. Even I remember the crazy things that Gigi, so Jean-Jacques Poncet, was writing the dialogue of the game, was doing in French. using the local joke in French, it should have been like a nightmare for translators. Um, to really use a local thing about this special characters like from Marseille, which had the accent. Which what is it? Oh, it's Tamco, ça? No, c'est quoi?
Yeah, there's a cutscene intro
Storyboards.
of Tamco.
Yeah.
And I have some of the description made by Jean-Jacques about Stanley Maxi on Siona Krakova. Her mother, a pregnant young woman, is found decapitated by the rotor of a scrubber while attempting to smuggle into the subaquatic colony of Eurocusto Deep Home 4, owned by Swan Corporation, submerged under the Pacific. You have an entire thing like that with the individual description of the page. That one is the same thing, but description of the girl with a yo-yo, fighting military yo-yo. And I don't know what they did not smoke, but yeah.
But going back to LBA1, it's actually interesting because most of you guys are not French, and nowadays when we do games, we actually, I mean, be very very careful on the fact that because we know that it's a pain in terms of localization, that to take things that are too locals, something extremely funny or a character that is really based on some very local roots. Because how do you translate it when you go to German or Italian or Japanese or Chinese or whatever it is, or Portuguese, and how do you deal with this? And LDA was full of this, my friend. I mean, there was side jokes and personal joke that only the French could understand, for God's sake. Um, and
Even the name Funfrock, which
yeah,
literally means funny pants.
yeah, indeed.
Okay, I didn't know that.
A frock is the kind of the slang word for indeed for the pants. Um, and I think that they took. I mean, I remember because I was involved in the German version, since I was speaking a bit of German at that time, and so that's where I was involved and going to Delphine to actually record the characters in German, the voice in German. So I went to Delphine Studio. I was proud, like I don't remember how you say that in English, but yeah, I was young and super proud of what happened. But so I went there and I was listening to the guys talking and sometimes asking them to do it more this or that so that they fit the characters, even actually the characters. And they did Delphine, who was organizing this, did really from what I could see at least at that time, a stellar job in trying to really push the translation and the localization of the game to make some parallel between local funny stuff that are in French and local funny stuff that eventually will work in the target language, even if it's actually different character, different accents that the character would have, but at least it will resonate kind of the same. Without doing something weird, because the Martian, I'm sure if you try to speak German with an accent from Marseille, it's not going to work, or it may feel really hard. And I think they spend a lot of effort doing this. But of course, you guys that are the guys that are playing pétanque, of course, you cannot hide this or change this. But I'm very curious actually if you felt that most of the joke, the tons of joke. Gigi really put lots of. He was a bit crazy, but he was so fun. He was the only one that I saw like eating a pizza, and his stuff was he was putting a pizza in a micro oven, and then putting some Mars, the chocolate bar.
Well, the one time I saw that, we were actually to an actual pizzeria takeaway place, so he asked, can you add a Mars on top?
Yeah, but I saw him doing it multiple times. It was crazy. But anyway, he was doing.
Regarding the localization, do you remember the Temple de Bu?
Yeah, and
Yeah, I believe Bu is because mal de bu mean in French to have a big headache, is because this temple is so annoying that it gives you an headache, so it's called the Temple de Bu.
Yeah.
That's
So,
really
but
nice to know.
so beside this, that of course the name like Funfrock, etc., was not really adapted. I'm curious from the people that are playing in different language, what they felt. Did they felt that actually it was some French joke that was sometimes adapted, or actually it felt really cool, like their culture was kind of imported through the accent, through the joke in the game.
I think we can see both in there, but to be honest, I was very young as well when I played first, and also I didn't know English, and the game was not translated in Portuguese, right?
But
Uh,
not in Portuguese, sorry.
no, so it was basically just looking at English with a dictionary and just uh, try to understand a little bit some of the dialogues. So it was a nice challenge back at the time, yeah. Of course, over the years it changed a little bit, but I think it can definitely spot some more kind of French related jokes there. That of course we don't get it. Uh, but yeah, those names definitely I didn't know about it. It's probably there's many in there.
I guess it's good that the game is fully subtitled.
Yes.
The cutscenes, the intro message during the intro, Twinson, blah 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 blah. Because if it had just been the voices, good luck using the dictionary
Yeah.
if you're not good at English.
Yeah, it will be
True.
very hard. Yeah. I
Regarding
tried
the
to translate
French,
actually after few years, just modding the game and translating to Portuguese at some stage. But I don't remember anymore how it was. I actually need to review it at some stage because it was so long ago. I probably know that that translation is not good either.
regarding what Olivier said earlier about the perception of the game by people we meet, what I find interesting is that LBA, well, for the people who know the game, pretty much everybody liked it or loved it at various level. Time Commando is like North Pole, South Pole magnet. There are some absolute fans of Time Commando, and there are some who think that the worst garbage ever unleashed and overhyped piece of stuff of the time. Which did not happen on LBA. LBA, there are very few people who hate LBA.
Yeah, true. It has LBA really had an impact on everybody who touched it from close or far.
Another thing I find interesting is that a lot of people are retro reviewing the game, totally ignoring the fact that both LBA and Time Commando were released with tank control, simply because there is no such thing as analog sticks when we release the game. Of course, LBA, it will make perfect sense to play it like a Mario, where you follow the stick. But when you did not have a stick, well, you had to use a direction, and that has a huge impact on the playability of the game.
I still like the tank controls, to be honest. I like that. Yeah.
Somebody was asking me on Time Commando why the movement was so slow and things like that, and it was all because of the CD streaming. In the first version, Stanley was running fast, and you will keep being stuck to the streaming thingy, which was not good, which is why we make it walk. And then, yeah, he's walking too slow, it's annoying. So what about sporty, move your hips kind of thing? So it looks like it's running, but it's actually walking speed, and now it looks ridiculous, but that was the less worse of the thing. Another issue is that we did not have pathfinding. So the characters often are doing hop, 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 hop randomly. It's because they are stuck trying to go toward you, and we don't have a pathfinding, so you try left or right until you are unblocked. So that was, yes, some
At least
attempts.
that is done a little bit better than in LBA1, because in LBA1 you will get stuck, yeah. Actually, for Time Commando, there's one thing, there's one particular level that no one can find, I think, one ship. So people try to do 100% of all the game, but there's one ship that no one can find it. So when you finish the game, it just appears 97% completion. And people
Yes,
wonder...
on that the level I was not able to reload in the tool for some reason, because the version of the code I have is not compatible with the data I have, because I wanted to look at the data to see where the heck this thing is, counting them one by one. Obviously, the numbers are displayed from the data, so this thing must be somewhere. But it may have been dropped by mistake, and the game does not allow you to put an object out of a tile. So this must be of a place where it's possible. What I suspect is that it's hidden behind an incorrect Z buffer slice, so you don't see it, and because of collision somewhere you can't access it.
The thing that I was mentioning earlier on Time Commando about the calculating the pieces that could come hide the 3D ultimately and render the back to front, the was actually added very late in the game development. So eventually it could have been the cause that something was already placed, and then later on it's not visible anymore, and nobody cared or saw it because nobody tried to do 100% in the QA department.
I assume the level you're talking about is French World War, Verdun.
Yes, I have it pointed here. I think it was World War, the first one.
Yes. I'm investigating that one. It's been pointed on my blog by some people. I try to search like, frack, you are right. I have no idea.
Yeah, it was
So
that one. Yeah.
do you remember? Was Melba used in French as well? Like I'm looking at the people typing on Twitch. Um, so the Melba, I mean, how do you want to tell me? I mean, the Melba, glass Melba. I mean, for us in French, it's kind of a
Yeah,
this
Pêche Melba, yeah.
yeah, La Pichon Melba. So it's this. It's basically you take you can do things. It's yeah. I guess it will be killing doing a dessert with pieces of whatever like a La Pichon. When you free the guy in Trally Cave. Soon je vais finir en Lapichon Milba. Yeah. Sinon je vais finir.
La cave du Tralu.
Yeah, it's fuck. Yeah, it's funny that both names are back. Tralu. It's funny, even if it's. I think it's really in the sound is really from Lyon, like with everything that happened. But I guess it was a word that was totally invented as well. Are you guys involved in the new version of LBA? No. So we're still in contact with some of the people, but actually 221, I had a quick discussion with someone that worked there, but no, we are not involved. I mean, everybody is beside Didier. I mean, Didier is the one that is the most involved, but of course I mean, he was one of the two recreators. I mean, there were four people, but Didier was the creative graphic mind, at least. Um, but the rest are I don't know who is really involved. But Ben, I never met Ben, so I heard that we are actually in his slot right now, right? Where he
Yes.
should have been present from 221, who are working on the new version of LBA. But I never had the pleasure to meet him. Perhaps at some, I'm still doing lots of business trade shows, so at some point I will probably meet him. But yeah.
Yeah, me neither. I'm not involved in LBA at all. I'm present on the 220 thing, but it's mostly to answer a question about Time Commando. Olivier joined Adeline during LBA. I joined Adeline during Timeco. Timeco is my first project. That's the one, despite all. I mean, it's like your first child, I guess, for the one who have child. Even if it's missing an arm and is not very smart, that's still your first child.
Yeah, I'm lucky enough to have my name on an LBA1 PC. Do I really deserved it? That's another story.
We're at the right time. Lucky you.
I was there. I did some stuff.
Well,
Even
technically, I'm on the credits of Arx Fatalis for having spent one weekend to help them debug something and write a mini profiler. So not necessarily deserved, but my name is on one of the best RPG of the universe. So
yeah. So to this day, I don't know what Melba. So again, if we look at Pêche Melba, it's a dessert. It's a French dessert. I guess French. I'm saying this because by default, if it's good, it's French. No, I'm kidding. But Pêche Melba, let me do a. It's an ice cream, if I remember. No, it's
no, I think it's like an actual peach with some
yeah. Search
cream
for
or something on top.
Pêche Melba. I have the Wikipedia page. If actually I'm on Twitch, I can put the link. Uh, of course, sorry, it's the French version by default. Should put it in English. Up. Yes. Um, Yeah. And so that yeah, that was definitely a joke. I didn't know that they tried to use it in the other language. I guess it's funky. Um, what else should we say? I mean, anyway, I'm gonna have to bail out soon, but and I guess there is someone else planned for
There is, yeah.
starting in 15 minutes. So I'm not sure if there are questions because as you could see, if you get us started, we can. I mean, we just talked about a very short period of our experience. Ultimately, I mean, I was there from 97. I left in 94, sorry, and I left in 97. So I was. It's 3 years out of my 30 years experience. It's pretty much the same for Michael. Um, but it's still something that we remember vividly. I mean, as you could see, there are lots of details that are
I guess
correct,
that will make Nicolas happy if we are able to talk just about Adeline 2 games for 1 hour and 45 minutes. He should be happy for his full big video about our entire career.
So Nicolas is Nicolas is someone from Delphi Software who is doing some video in French about old creators or old developers of video games about how it worked in that time and about their career. And he's been doing this for a while now, and so yeah, actually I looked at one yesterday evening, and the guy that he was talking about is actually 5 6 years older than me, and that. And started even before me, and it's impressive. I remember going, when you say, "Wow, that's impressive," etc. I remember when I arrived in the US and I landed at 3DO, and I was still like so clueless about really how you make game in terms of outside the organic way of Adeline, which way work or just end up as a catastrophe, as we could have seen after that also for on our side. But so I ended up there, and I studied actually the guy that was kind of side reporting to was Todd Fry. He's the freaking guy who made Pac-Man on Atari, and and for me it's like, well, that's him. That's God is there, and on the side you had the guy that worked on pinball on PC, and my own I will say, even if I was not like the best big gamers, I was still a gamer. I played a lot in the arcade game when I was there, but those guys were 10 to 15 to 20 years before us in the industry, and there was like, shit, there are so many things to learn, and of course very quickly what I learned from them is well, the efficiency that is required by this industry that was still very young retrospectively compared to now. But what I mean is that it's so subjective. Those guys, most of them are still alive, and I'm still in contact with them. But it's it's uh, it's funny how you learn things from people, and how the experience passed from one generation to another. And we were lucky to actually be in the second or third generation of game maker. Um and now we look like old veterans and smart ass
Well, we are.
in some way,
We
yeah.
are old veteran. I mean, that's indisputable.
Yeah.
Regarding well, famous people, we also met some during Adeline. I'm not sure if you remember, but we had the guy who made this 3D engine with a Boboloid with spheres, Phantasmagoria or something like that. There were 3D object made from small sprite balls in that buffer
Yeah,
that
yeah,
Fred was investigating for LBA2. We also had a Lord British, Richard Garriott, coming for one day. There were some discussion. He gave to everybody a small pin from the Texas, and then we ended up at a pub. That's where I realized that my accent in English was
well,
absolutely
we were
inexistent.
talking, yeah, yeah, we were talking like French at that time, which is like really a really bad English accent. I cannot do it anymore, and we were convinced that we could speak English, but really we couldn't. We could read some English, but that was pretty much it. Um, and yeah, so that was fun. There was some question, very important question. Who was responsible for the shot in LBA2 when you leave desert island with the ferry? back to the Citadel Island. You mean the shot? You mean the cinematographic part of it, like how the camera was placed and ultimately the pre-rendered? I think it will be Frederic Taquet ultimately, because of course Frederic Taquet will do the work on the silicon graphics, but before there was a storyboard that was made, and probably Didier Chanfray was either doing the board I mean doing the choice on the storyboard, or making it himself.
Regarding what you said about the legacy transfer information, that's one of the reasons why I started documenting all these things about Time Commando, is because I found out that there are a lot of people who don't know crap about anything, who love to write books, articles, and then you see on Wikipedia something totally incorrect about a project where you were actually present. So, as we say, history is written by the victor. So I've been writing all these Wikipedia articles. So, sorry, not Wikipedia, blog articles. So I can actually document what it was to be, what was my career, what it was to work there, how this project was made, etc., etc. So if anyone is interested by the technical details, they can go there, ask question on the thing. Generally, I tend to answer the day after or something.
Yeah,
So,
I
Michael,
really enjoy your articles on Time Commando. Yeah, very useful information there.
so do I. It reminds me of stuff. Actually, it's like fuck yeah, I forgot about this. It's pretty impressive. I mean, this is impressive, the time that you were able to spend, of course, on this, and and I don't have this courage to spend. I mean, actually, I was lucky enough. I mean, lucky enough, since I was self-educated and I didn't have any diploma. So 2 years ago, I decided that now was the time to get a freaking diploma. And so I went and I went to the CNAM, which is the National Center for Art and Craft in France, and started a master. Me who didn't have any freaking diploma, but it's a special process in France which is called the VAE. It's valorization of your experience ultimately. So I didn't have to do courses, go to course like any student, but I still had to write a memoir. I mean, went through lots of filter and discussion and training and so on and so on. But I still had to write a memoir, and for my memoir, for memoir, actually, I turned my experience into a memoir, and what I've learned from it, what evolved into the way that my craft and my own skills have evolved with my experience, etc., etc. And so I had lots of chat with Michael, because it's funny how I was writing stuff, and I was explaining my experience, and some things that happened at Adeline, for example, that really drove ultimately the choices that I made in my career later on, or influenced me in some ways. But it was funny to actually put it on paper. I'm glad I did that, even if it was a painful exercise and took months. But yeah, Michael helped me to correct in some cases, or had details where I clearly didn't remember them. So it's true that even if we are not dead yet, touching wood, that memory are fading away very easily, and that and some of the stuff, well, I don't care. I mean, I don't think talking to my kids, I don't think they care. I think if they see old games, well, they're perhaps too young to help, but they are more attracted by the game on the tablet or the phone than actually something on the screen. They have access to the Quest. They are playing to Beat Saber once in a while, but really they are hooked to the mobile gaming. And what is interesting with mobile gaming, even if it's changing, is that mobile gaming actually bring you back 15 years back in terms of graphic quality for most of them. And some of the games that are working are actually could have been done on a PlayStation 1 or even a PC at the time. So it's an interesting evolution where low production value actually can be successful, and technology is something that is valid, of course, for the FPS, but even for the FPS. If you take the game Bullet, what?
Brainstorm?
But is it Bulletstorm? I actually bought it and played it, but which is a FPS, a crazy FPS where you can be 100 on the server, but the look is really like it's all flat, 3D. It's super cheap, but it works. Yeah, the physics engine behind it is actually quite well. The network code and architecture is pretty well done. Um, but the production value of this is super low, besides for the fact that you can play with 100 people, or 99 people. So what I'm saying is that it's really interesting how some things that we learn that we applied back then at Adeline on LBA or Time Commando are still relevant in some cases for some people ultimately. And a bunch of questions for you, Mike.
Okay.
There's one related to LBA1, related to who did the sound effect for walking on flowers.
Wow, no idea. I even don't remember. I mean, I think Philippe was doing the music. I think he was involved in the sound effect in terms of who
Yeah,
plays.
most probably because it had to fit in the memory bank anyway.
Yeah,
Some
I mean
banks.
for PSX, but
Even on
yeah,
PCs, they needed
yeah,
to have that in the
I,
Sound bank. So
they had to do something similar as
it
well. I
had to
mean,
be Philippe Bachet.
yeah, it has to be Philippe Bachet, or at least it was going through him. After that, the decision of having the noise here and there.
I would
But
say probably um, damn, GG
yeah,
asking,
perhaps.
well, I'd like to have a funny sound for that.
Yeah, or
Mm.
anybody who was when we were playing or joking or just partying at that crazy idea, and the next day we tried it. Probably could be this. I don't want to remove the credit from anybody, but it could have been one or the other.
Regarding what you said about the new game versus old game, one sad thing is that pretty much all these games that we are talking about now, you will still be able to play them in 10, 20, 50 or 100 years, assuming where civilization is not destroyed, because all is available, everything has been reverse engineered, everything is emulated. But pretty much none of the game has been working on in the last 20 years, even a bit more that if you include Tesla Unlimited, are going to be playable in 50 years because they are all game as a service or a network game with a server.
Right.
And when the server are gone, the game is gone.
Yeah, that's the sad part, indeed.
Yeah.
How this legacy can for the future generation, and it's actually the same case for mobile. Um,
Yeah, I include all that, yeah. Like it's
so
already difficult to keep a game online on iPhone. If it's not been updated in like 2 years, it's considered as old and removed.
yeah,
If the game is good, it's good. Why would you update it if it's running? That's complete dumb policy.
yeah. I mean, I've done an indie game actually a few years back, a puzzle game on mobile, and I have to fight. So I'm working probably a few days to a week every year just to update it because Google will kick it out of the store if I don't update the library or I don't do this or that. And it's a pain. Whereas a previous game, well, they were in the box, and you could still play them, and nobody forced you to do an update. So of course you didn't have internet, but even nowadays the console games, once unless they are dependent on the server. I mean, but
Yeah, authentication, updates, etc. Yeah.
if it has been validated to work on the platform once, you may never update it, and it will still work,
Right.
which is not the case for mobile anymore. So it's really a particular segment of gaming nowadays. Um, you have some question, I guess, for you, Mike. No,
No, they were asking thing about blog and stuff.
I randomly read that at that time that Didier's wife had offered a card to all LBA2 team. A card? Not sure.
But I guess after there is somebody else stream starting in 1 minute
Oh yeah. So we
Yeah,
should.
it
for
is.
Teliam.
Thank you very much,
Thanks.
gentlemen and lady eventually.
Hope that was meeting
Yeah,
your expectation and hope.
yeah. I hope we were not too boring.
No, you made my life easier, to be honest. It has been a pleasure. Thanks a lot for taking the time. It went way beyond what you guys have thought about it, so I appreciate
That's
that.
what we do.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, have a great day, everybody,
Have a
Oh,
nice
nice weekend,
weekend.
everybody.
Thank you.
and enjoy the rest of the stream.
Will do.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye. See you guys. Bye. Thank you.